I thought it was important that we take a little bit closer look at last week's data on Kagara. Now, Kagara is the combination of semaglutide and cagrilintide from Novo Nordisk, which is their next generation in anti-obesity and type 2 diabetes medicine. They stunned investors last week when they fell short of their expectation of hitting 25% weight loss over 68 weeks. It stunned investors so much that the Novo Nordisk stock was down up to 24% at one point in trading on Friday. We'll see what happens today. But now that we've had the weekend to digest this information, I think it's important to take a little bit closer look at maybe why we hit those numbers and maybe why this isn't as bad as we think it is. Now, many of you responded to this news like saying, hey, that's still really good weight loss. And I 100% agree. And I'm still very excited for Kagara. And I think that it's going to be very important for different pathways of weight loss to be developed, and Kagara certainly represents that. Now, the reason that we made the video about the 22.7% weight loss is because they were expecting 25%. And I think it's really interesting when you look at the trial design, why they hit only 22.7% instead of 25%. Well, interestingly enough, only 57.3% of patients on this trial actually reached the top dose of Kagara. In other words, people were given the option whether to titrate up or not, similar to the heart failure studies in SELECT for Wegovy. Now, why might this be? The future data of the entire clinical trial here is going to be really important to put this in context. Did people stop titrating up because they reached their weight loss goals? Or did they stop titrating up because they couldn't stand the side effects? That's going to be the big one to watch. But you see with the tirzepatide trials and the retatrutide trials that there's a forced dose escalation that this did not have built into it. And so I think that's going to be really interesting to watch to see whether or not they do a trial where there's a forced dose escalation and to see whether they would get closer to the 25%. My sense is probably they would, but would there be more dropouts in the study? And I think that's a big thing that Novo Nordisk would not want to risk, is showing a study where so many people couldn't tolerate the medication or the dose escalation that they just altogether dropped out of the clinical trial. So it's going to be interesting to put this in context. There are more studies being done on Kagara. The Redefine 2 trial, which shows Kagara versus placebo in 1,200 adults with type 2 diabetes. Those are the ones that we're going to be watching really closely here as a type 2 diabetic. I'm really excited to see the potential outcomes for Kagara then. Now, this is a little fun exercise that we've been doing on the channel since back with tirzepatide. I took a look at some of the different trademarks that Novo Nordisk has gotten over the last couple of years. And I like to do just a little exercise to see what might they call Kagara when it hits the market. Now, I've got a list of a few here, and I'm going to throw them out to you, and I want to hear which ones you think it might be. I have my own personal opinion about what the brand name of Kagara would be for obesity. So I'm going to give them to you in order here of how I found them. Marvoya was the first one. Marvoya. Amvelous. Whey Power. Sounds a little bit like Wegovy, Whey Power. Lemway, Midelico, Crevendo. Those are the names that they have trademarks for. My sense is it could be Amvelous because of the amylin component of Kagara, but they may be reserving that for the amycretin. Marvoya is an interesting one to me because it uses the word kind of voya, like voyage, to, or Spanish, voy means to go. Marvoya could be an interesting one also, but I'm going to guess Amvelous or Marvoya could be the potential future name of Kagara. At any rate, I wanted to put the context from last week's news into a little bit better context now that we've had the weekend to digest this. Of course, I'm sure you can still hear it in my voice. I'm still really struggling, feeling kind of sick, but I got the chance to read a little bit more about this weekend and process it, and I think that this might be okay, but the clinical trial data, when they released the whole set of data to see how people were tolerating cagrilintide, Kagara, will be very interesting to watch. Stay tuned to the channel. If you find this video interesting, please share it with somebody who might find it interesting as well, and we'll catch you on the next one.